Our brains are just incredible machines, built to find patterns in everything. But here's the catch. That same superpower can actually be our biggest weakness. It can trick us into making some really bad decisions, all based on a tiny, tiny scrap of information. Today, we're diving right into that trap.
I mean, think about it. You get one plate of soggy pasta, and that's it. The whole restaurant is written off forever. Or maybe you meet one person from a city who's a little rude, and suddenly you're convinced everyone there is unfriendly. Come on, we've all been there, right? This impulse, this need to build a massive judgment from a single piece of evidence is exactly what we're digging into. And believe it or not, this little mental glitch has a name: the law of small numbers. It's this deep, intuitive, and completely wrong belief that a handful of examples has to be a perfect snapshot of the big picture. Our brains just crave certainty, and they're more than happy to build it on the flimsiest foundation you can imagine.
So, the big question is why? Why are we wired this way? Is it just a simple mistake we make? Well, researchers wanted to get to the absolute bottom of this, to really understand the root cause of this fundamental error in our thinking. And when they decided to find out, they didn't just mess around. To get to the truth, they conducted this massive search across a database of over 126 million academic papers. Yeah, million, all to hunt down the real reason for this mental glitch.
And this wasn't just some quick keyword search, okay? The whole process was incredibly methodical. After that massive initial search, they carefully screened the top 50 most relevant papers. Then they systematically pulled out all the key data. So, what we're about to see, it's built on a rock-solid foundation of serious research.
So, what did they find? Well, it turns out the reason we fall into this trap isn't because we're not smart. It's because our brains come, pre-installed with some very specific mental shortcuts.
And you should think of these less like bugs and more like features. Seriously. These cognitive biases are basically glitches in our logic that evolved to help us make lightning-fast decisions to survive. I mean, it was way better to wrongly think a rustle in the grass was a lion than to assume it was just the wind and, well, get eaten. The problem is, in our modern, data-filled world, these shortcuts can lead us way off track. The investigation basically pulled together a police lineup of the usual suspects. Of course, you've got the law of small numbers itself. But then there's its close cousin, the Representativeness Heuristic, and others like the gambler's fallacy and optimism bias. Every single one of these plays a part in convincing us that the little bit we see is the whole story. All right, let's zoom in on the two main culprits here, because they're pretty easy to mix up. The law of small numbers is that gut feeling that a tiny sample has to reflect the whole thing. The representativeness heuristic is a bit different. That's when we judge the odds of something based on how well it fits a stereotype we already have in our head. But either way, the result is exactly the same. We become way too confident based on way too little evidence. Okay, so we've got our suspects. Now it's time to look at the hard evidence. What did all of these different studies actually find when they put these biases under the microscope? Okay, get ready for this, because this is the bombshell. You might be thinking, all right, I get it, this is a problem for most people, but surely the experts, the scientists, the statisticians, they know better. Nope. The research is clear. This bias is so deep, it affects everyone, from college students to seasoned professional researchers. It gets even wilder. The research actually pinpointed a specific, almost magical number where our intuition just goes completely off the rails, and that number is 30. It turns out, once a sample size gets to about 30, our confidence in the results just levels out. We don't feel much more certain, even if that sample size grows by 100 or even 1,000 times. And this chart right here just lays it all out, plain as day. Look at the tiny, tiny difference in our confidence between a sample of 30 and a sample of 3,000. It's almost nothing. From a statistical standpoint, the effect of all that extra data on our belief is practically zero. Our gut feeling about the power of big numbers is just fundamentally broken. And look, this isn't some one-off fluke. We see this pattern pop up everywhere. A 2002 study showed that even statistics experts were wildly overconfident in small samples. Then a 2021 study saw the general public making all sorts of bad choices because of it. And this is critical. A 2011 study on clinical trials found this bias led to overestimating how well treatments worked, creating flawed research. It's everywhere.
So, after sifting through all this evidence, what's the final verdict? What's the one thing we should really take away from this deep dive into our own faulty thinking?
And here is the most important thing to remember. Falling for the small data trap doesn't mean you're bad at math or anything like that. It just means you're human. Our brains are hardwired to look for stories, to create patterns out of chaos. It's a feature, not a bug, but it's one we have to be super aware of. So why does this matter in your actual life? Well, the next time you see a headline screaming about some miracle cure based on a study with 20 people, be skeptical. When you're about to drop a bunch of money on something because of 3 glowing reviews, just pause. Remember that even the experts get this wrong. And most importantly, learn to second-guess your own gut when it starts telling you a story about data. So I'll leave you with this one question to chew on. Right now, at work or in your personal life, what's the biggest decision on your plate? And is it just possible that your whole perspective is being shaped by a tiny, unrepresentative slice of the real picture?